Hello, and welcome to the Island Pacific webinar, focusing on how Island Pacific Solutions can support retailers during this time of recovery. My name is Richard Gaetano. Thank you for attending. I see a bunch of people kind of jumping in right now, so sorry for a little bit of the delay. I've been with IP for 25 years and in the industry a bit longer, and with these kind of unprecedented times in retail, as an executive group, we thought it best to present some strategies around how we could provide some ideas and solutions around recovery over various parts of the retail industry. We find ourselves oftentimes selling solutions and providing services, but we also feel that we provide a lot of really good ideas and strategies around how we can help our customers engage in parts of the business that would help them focus their attentions on certain things. And today's conversation is going to be more about very specific topics that allow us to kind of help you if you're not in this kind of space. We'll call it, whether it's in the planning space and, inventory management, cash management, and delivery. We feel like we like the opportunity to assist you guys and give you some ideas on how we can help you. Inventory, cash, flexible delivery, fast decision-making and processes seem to be kind of the core areas that we could, that we're going to spend some time and focus on. A lot of the times, we find challenges with, what happens now in these periods where we've had inventory sitting or we've had inventory that we were planning that didn't arrive. How can we best manage that inventory? What can we do to maximize our cash when it comes to the open to buy side of the house? Customer delivery, what are some of the things that we can do that we were thinking about, but maybe, we thought we had time to engage in things like the curbside pickups and the buy online pickup in store, where now it becomes so critical in business today, as well as, making faster decisions, with real information and data that we can, have a single set of data for all of our consumers in the business to react to. And then lastly, process, just making sure that we can improve processes, be efficient, and maximize the technologies that we have at our fingertips. We're going to start with kind of we're going to get into these six kind of solutions, package solutions, and just talk to you about how these things can be delivered within a few months. It's important because in times like this, we want to make sure that we can get, into the market, we'll say, get into these strategies quickly, get some ROI against them, and then we can grow and build from that point forward. So most of these solutions that we're going to be talking about aren't going to be solutions that are going to take a long time to certainly roll out and implement, because of the approach that we take. And we'll talk a little bit about each of these package solutions, and we'll also talk about what an implementation might look like and how we could help you. We're going to start off with the first one when it comes to inventory issues. And this is something where we see a lot of times it's the issues, everybody's got this problem where, the inventory is inevitably in the wrong place based on what we're seeing in sales performance. So it kind of stems back to this ineffective initial allocation and how we manage our replenishments. And so, from a solution perspective, we want to look at how we can implement something, a system or even a process that allows us to manage these allocations and the stock balancing that's required. So the game here is to try and get in this cycle where we're reducing that initial allocation, making sure that we're getting the right products to the right locations, maybe increase those replenishment cycles so that we can then bring the stock in more intelligently, which then ultimately leads to less stock movement. So that's one of the areas that we see kind of instant ROI if you can manage that, and mainly because of the costs associated with markdowns and transfers. that come along with that. Within the allocation kind of management side, there are some things that we look at, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, you know, from an optimums, which is effectively kind of what, you know, those min, ideal, max, which is a very familiar replenishment kind of concept, but that we can use within an allocation process. Obviously, looking at grading, things like your store grades are super important. Understanding which stores, whether it's, you know, by channel, you know, density, how big those stores are, how much inventory they can hold versus their sell-through. Being able to really hone in on what those stores and how those are and how they perform is important. And then you take the size profiling aspect, which I think is is a very, you know, critical component, especially if you're in that kind of color size merchandise. Being able to understand what each of these locations, what the actual profiles of the sizes that you're selling in those locations will help you kind of optimize to the right mix of product by size, rather than carrying, you know, these fringe sizes that maybe, you know, sit out there and end up getting marked down. Size profiling is huge. Like I said, from a concept, we have a size profiling tool that allows us to do, it allows us to view all of the information, sales performance, you know, down to the location, you know, item week. So it gives us the most granular level of information available to view, that we can work with and come up with, you know, what these parameters are that allow us to define what the profile ends up looking like. So whether it's through a time range, very flexible measures or these calculation parameters that we call them, that allow us to control and build these profiles at any level of the location hierarchy. So you could just take products at a higher level and say, generally the profiles look like this. But then with, you know, when you drive in that information about the actual performance, we can then at a lower level along that product hierarchy down to even a style, you can even designate what the profiles look like for these products. And, you know, the biggest challenge is you might know how the store performs. And so then you could allocate profiles to a location, or you can use an aggregate, which is essentially going to be a model that you could use and apply to possibly a new store going forward. So size profiling, definitely one of the key concepts around inventory management that I think would be a good strategy to employ. One of the things that we also look at is kind of product life cycle and allocation methods that you might look at, and this is an interesting kind of concept, and you know, not all products and you know, perform like this over sales and time, but just as a basic, you've got three basic kind of stages in the life of that product: launch time, the maturity stage, and then the decline, which will vary, right, by product or product type, whether it's a replenishable item or it's a seasonal item. But in theory, you know, what we look at is, you know, how are we going to solve this? And so one of the strategies we looked at was, well, within our allocation tools, how do we manage at every one of these levels? And so what we did was kind of put a bit of a heat map together to kind of explain where you might use some of these strategies. And at the bottom, we use this term dynamic analysis, which is a very flexible component to the allocation process. It allows you to actually analyze the performance of all products using different measures that you set up. And then everything above that, so whether you're topping up your allocations, you're replenishing to sales, your sell-off percentages, these are all strategies that we would want to take advantage of in that process. And during a launch phase, you might do some allocation by size, or you might copy an allocation based on, you know, a new product that doesn't have any history behind it, so you wouldn't know, you know, how it would normally. So if you want to model, we would do a copy of an allocation there. But the idea here is using these tools to help you identify which allocation strategy or method you might employ in the various stages of the life of that product. Very important, you know, that you look at the different options that you do have going forward. Within replenishment, you know, we like to look at these dynamic sales curves. So we like to understand how these products are trending and selling, you know, seasonally, et cetera. So we use these dynamic sales curves to understand where we see the peaks and the valleys. We use our fill levels, again, very similar to the optimums in the allocation side of the house, where you can have mins, ideals, and maxes. but then you take in that minimum days of supply, max days of supply, to understand what you have available to replenish, and when it needs to get there. Taking into consideration that, you know, it's not just about replenishment, but we also can support the auto PO. So for those of you that, you know, have that relationship where you can actually call out from your vendors, and pull information, pull product directly from them, we can also support the auto PO side of this. But effectively, we get into a kind of the replenishment we call the task scheduler, which is your ability to run some ad hoc scheduled replenishments, which can be done at various levels of the product. So whether it's certain groups of products you want to replenish more frequently than others, but also gives you the ability to look at, you know, some what if, right? Save your results, review those results before you execute. So it's really important to understand that, you know, you want to kind of get those models down, track how they're performing, and then fine tune those replenishments, and then get them on that schedule so that you know that you're going to have these periodic replenishments. Understanding what your in-transit days are, understanding what the lead times that are required, so that you make sure that you get the inventory to those locations at the right time without depleting stock in the store. So very important way to manage that inventory. We also offer some stock balancing, and I think this is one of the areas where, you know, we try and add a little bit of caution to stock balancing. And one of the things that we've done is, you know, you control kind of, you know, I think what we call associated locations. And so if you look at the process, you know, stock balancing is great to make sure that you're moving the right product to the right locations where they're selling, but you got to put some restrictions or some guardrails around this. We've seen many times retailers trying to move inventory around to different locations, and what you don't realize is the cost associated with doing that. And what you want to do is minimize that cost. So restricting some of these stock balancing and the movement of these goods to associated locations by region. So, you know, proximity type things like that. So you're not moving something from California to New York just because. You want to keep it restricted to certain maybe geographic locations, you know, and those locations or those groupings can be completely definable by you guys. But that ultimately that, you know, turns into some transfer notification and directive to the store so that they know where to move some of the product. Obviously, this could work for I'll call it the beginnings of a recall type of a process. So if you want to consolidate your inventory, whether it's seasonal inventory consolidated at the warehouse, or even potential markdown clearance type products as well. So definitely very useful to be able to analyze what inventory, what stock is sitting in which locations, and being able to then move them. Okay. Just a little bit of a kind of an allocation manager workbench. So you can see kind of the environment you'd be looking at. So it's always looking at real-time information, where you're sitting with inventory in a location. The Open to Buy tool, so this goes into the second kind of package about cash management. Open to Buy is important, and it seems to be the one area where, you know, from a planning perspective, we do get a lot of, I'll call it discussion around, you know, how it's being done. Usually it's done in Excel, you know, and the problem we run into is, you know, how do you actually manage and make the right decisions, you know, on how much and when you want to make that purchase, you know, managing the actual sales performance and using a real database to actually support the decisions that are being made, not just a plan that was drafted in a spreadsheet and then just executing to a plan, but continuously reviewing that and improving, you know, so that manual effort going away, being able to allow for that quicker decision-making because it's system driven. So, you know, looking at our smart planning tools, whether it's pre-season and in-season planning, I think those become effective tools in that planning cycle that allow the system and the automations to actually make suggestions and provide good insight into actually what's really happening systemically. And we've seen some really good, you know, return on investment for some of our customers, you know, 20% increase on sales from 3% of stock growth. One of our customers, Reliant Retail, you know, that we also have some case studies that we'll provide as well, but very much an opportunity area, you know, in this space. And one of the ways we do that is what we call the Island Pacific. It's the fast plan deployment model. So it takes our planning, our core planning system, and allows us to implement 3 core templates: merchandise plan, channel, location plans, and the key item plans. It's, those 3, I'll call it, the 3 components is fairly understated in terms of what it could do, because actually the multidimensional hierarchies are very powerful. So whether you're looking at, merchandise as it pertains to product, attributes, suppliers, how you want to view that, very flexible. And the attributes, we always find and we hear that, attributes are very difficult to manage because it's, driven by some, ERP or PIM system or something. And so there could be restrictions. And while within our planning system, we can create attributes specific to planning so that we don't have to worry about, I'll call it the source systems or the ERP systems. So it's very powerful, allows again for the pre-season and in-season and the open to buy side of the house. The goal would be to move you away from Excel, although we know Excel is a very powerful tool. This gives you a database and a system that will allow for much quicker decision-making and visibility. And again, can integrate into any applications. When we look at, again, kind of a quick slide, managing your open to buy dollars, it's all, workflow, kind of work step driven. We work with you on what those work steps look like. So managing that open to buy, you've got your merchandise plans and the channel plans. And those channels can be defined by you. So depending on how you want to break that down, whether that channel consists of, it's e-com, brick and mortar, could be, wholesale, could be any number of different channels that you're planning that can roll up into the that master overarching plan. And then key items, it's always important. You've got certain items and certain products that you want to focus on. And we give you the ability to do that. And again, all of these will roll up into a master merchandise plan and financial plan. The third package, which is probably one of the most current topics given the 2020 that we've all experienced. With store closures and inability to open up the stores and staff the stores and all the protocols required, we've been seeing a lot of movement here. We've had customers that have been doing this for years. One of the ROI, kind of the use cases there at the Dune Group, 20% increase in sales. And we've got some case studies behind how they've been able to accomplish that with some of the click and collect or BOPIS type transactions. But effectively the issues are, the delivery options. People can't get to the stores, or possibly they follow a brand and they want to get product quicker, but they're not close enough to a location. So, what types of constraints did we have with COVID? We had we couldn't get to the store. So the advent of the curbside pickup, right? The existence of buy online, pickup in store, ship from store, even the smart lockers, all those types of things make it more effective. So being able to adopt these sorts of strategies in your business is a key point of these flexible delivery options. Solutions, we offer, Omni solutions, real-time view of inventory and intelligent routing. So again, looking at those associated locations or stores, you can come up with a way that says, we can manage, within a group of stores, have a store that is a delivery store. So it carries more stock so that we can actually do some shipping from that location, or even that become the pickup location. So using the Omni product, that allows us to have that total visibility of the chain and where all the inventory resides. So from an order management perspective, you know exactly where somebody can pick up based on inventory availability to the minute. The product is designed as a kind of with APIs around it, so the Omni system itself can actually connect into various products. So whether it's an OMS, a point of sale system or any of the e-com sites, it should be connected to all of them so that it understands the transactions that are happening to the minute. So whether that's the sale that occurred or a reservation because, we reserve stock to go, we reserve some inventory to go pick it up, or it's from we need to reserve stock in a location because it was, bought online and it's ready to be picked up. The Omni system is that centralized view and orchestrates all the activity associated to those orders. And that could be executed through, just a browser on a fixed device or through a mobile device. We're trying to keep it simple. Orders are executed online, so it's really just a matter of communicating with your employees to let them know what they need to pick, pack, or ship, and then making sure that the customers are updated when those activities are complete so they know when they can come by and pick it up. So it's basically a messaging tool to those customers and to the employees at the stores to make sure that those activities are accomplished. Very powerful. Just a quick little understanding of that. So again, understanding, what inventory is where, and also things like, which is very important, is understanding if you've got certain products that cannot be shipped because of size or something like that. We can also put blocks to allow certain products, from being shipped out because they won't be available in stores. So again, it's all about kind of working with the product set, understanding what's available, which locations are available, and then tracking the performance. So making sure that the stores are responding to those requests in a timely fashion. Fourth package, we look at decision making and how quickly can one react. And one of the things we've been looking at, kind of the concepts we've been playing with the last couple of years is, data-driven decisions. So looking at the data throughout the business, not just in one application area, we'll call it, but across the business in different various kind of application sets, and being able to react to that information. So, not being able to get at the information where you're constantly requiring access to your IT department to write some query or some report for you because you can't seem to get it out of the system, trying to assimilate that data. So just looking at the fact that you've got, a financial system or you've got this merchandising system here or a planning system there, and trying to, make sense of the information that you're looking at seems to add these delays. So we want to give that visibility to, the masses. And really the crux of it is, we're trying to get at the single version of the truth, but we have too many of these disparate systems that we're looking at. So it's how do we get them into one place? And so within our analytics solution, what we've done at the core is said, well, let's just come up with a way to deliver this enterprise data warehouse that allows us to attach multiple data sources. So whether it's within our own product set, or whether it's a data source, it could be an Excel spreadsheet that gets updated once a week in a folder somewhere, and in some server that's either sitting on premise or or hosted. It becomes part of the solution. And so what we want to do is make sure that we can, relate all of the information to deliver the right, set of reports, dashboards, for people to, to be, quicker, at their jobs. Once you get that information, though, we also want to make sure that we can find ways to action that data and then turn that thing back around. So you've done all the analysis, you've done all the work. Now, how can we take that information and be more effective with it? The analytics system within Island Pacific kind of encompasses the entire product set. So whether we're in our planning suite, whether we're in the, the core merchandising suite, any of these areas, Omni and Order or OMS, we have cubes that we can review all this information, and it's all very much related to each other. So, you can insert any component here from any other third party. We can access that information and then present these hybrid kind of reports that give you a view of the enterprise in a very different way that would be unique to each retailer. One thing that typically comes up is a barrier is that people will often say, well, I've got Cognos or a MicroStrategies or Tableau or any sort of third-party application where they've got people that, you know, are active on them, they use them, they know how to build reports. And that's great because that actually works right on top of what we deliver. Everything that we deliver from a BI perspective is, you know, it's a SQL Server platform. So while we might deliver it with Microsoft Power BI just for ease on our side to deliver these reports and dashboards, anything can be used on top of them. So it's about understanding the data source and then letting your teams do what they do best, which is use these tools to create the reports and the dashboards that are required. And certainly we can help in doing that. And I think it's important to get this, you know, under wraps, because I think there's too many different systems with too much information. And I think we sometimes find ourselves kind of paralyzed looking at all the information from different systems and not being able to make sense of it. So trying to get it all into one place and again, relating that data so that we know exactly what we're looking at will help us make better decisions much more quickly. So some of the tools in the to improve processes, this 5th and 6th kind of package in areas that we can improve on is the all around, you know, communication. I'll say communication. Suppliers, wholesale, franchise partners, a lot of inefficiencies in these areas. A lot of our customers are retailers that have certain franchise arrangements or even wholesale components. You know, typically it becomes a very manual process, or they've got many systems that they're trying to integrate. And you know, what we found is creating these supplier and the customer portals has allowed us to abstract kind of the activity that occurs between, you know, the retailer and either the wholesale partner or the suppliers in a way that that takes a lot of the stress off of the teams. And so when we look at things like our supplier portal, you know, it's about, you know, managing two types of order processes, drop ships and commercial or retail POs, talking to those suppliers and giving them a way to actually, you know, streamline the communication, remove administrative costs, you know, get away from the phone calls and the texts, the emails and all the different communication methods, and just have it all done through a portal where they can actually, you know, negotiate and comment and control things like when the shipments are being sent out, you know, downloading POs, even creating on the shipment side, just being able to know when these things have been shipped. It gives more real-time information. And what we found is, you know, the improvements and the efficiency improvements in the automation affects, you know, everyone from the buying, finance, merch, logistics, and the suppliers themselves. So it kind of brings everybody together in one kind of, you know, one environment, you know, and it's important because, you know, what we're finding is that the amount of, I'll call it people that we're spending that are just responding to things that could be done electronically, and questions that could be answered and paperwork that keeps getting shuffled. This just makes it cleaner, audited, it's available, and notifications are great because you can, you know, notify anybody very easily in real time, and they can react to it. So very powerful tools on the supplier side. So along those lines with wholesale, even potentially even franchise partners, we've developed this customer portal that allows us to do a very similar thing to the supplier side, but for our wholesale customers. So this now takes things like catalogs, pricing that's very specific to certain partners, and lets them put it out into an open kind of, you know, an open platform, a portal that allows them to interact with the very specific customer. So they can see what the catalog that's being made available, they can buy. They know exactly what products are available by season and what their price structures are. They can place reorders. So making it very, very simple to allow them, allow that, again, communication without having to continuously message or deliver different catalogs either through, you know, email or, you know, or sending them any sort of information and the constant communication. We can actually automate the process to say, here's your products, here's the catalogs, here are the price lists, and here it is by season when we make them available. Architecture is very open. You know, in most cases, it just requires they have access to a browser, right? And then the data that we're moving, whether it's a supplier portal or the wholesale customer side, is all driven through XML messaging. So, you know, we can support customers that are using standard EDI flows as well. So if it could be a wholesale partner or a supplier that's very, you know, I'll call it experienced and have platforms that they actually communicate with through EDI versus some that might be smaller in nature and struggle a bit. So we've tried to make the platform very easy and quick to adopt. So these are the 6 kind of package solutions. We'll talk a little bit about the delivery within 3 months. It's important to note that you know, when we look at these core concepts of inventory, cash, flexible delivery, fast decision, and process, these are things that we can reasonably implement with a process and start as a building block. So you're not going to maybe get the whiteboard approach, and you know, it's definitely going to be something that we're suggesting. Here's how we would do it, that we can then grow from. So it's important to note that, you know, we're really looking at you know, a program that allows us to kind of kick off, do configuration work, document what's going to be done, do some user acceptance, and then actually push to that go live within that by that 13th week, so that we can actually start using the system. Once we've gone live with this system, then we can start analyzing, like, okay, what changes do we want to do? Maybe, you know, you might want to take it on board and say, I want to do a few more different things. Certainly with the, when we talk about analytics, that you would want to, you know, expand on that over time. But the 3-month implementation program is flexible enough that allows us to also consider what the kind of the, I'll call it the financial ramifications are. So whether you want to use our cloud environment and you want to do some hosting, which we can get the, you know, the hosting center up, we can deploy this in a subscription model, or whether you want to take it on board in-house and run it on-prem, it's very flexible that way. And obviously part of what we're looking to do here is to help you guys get these solutions in place, and you know, and work with you on what the, I'll call it the financial impact is going to be in terms of the payment programs, deferrals, and that sort of thing. So we're really open to how we want to do it. And obviously subscription works because we can then manage that so that it kind of, the costs go along with your ability to recover that, that return on the investment. Very important to us to make sure that you've implemented a system that you can then defend that, that outlay of cost going forward. We will be sharing some white papers. We have another webinar specific to size profiling, which again, I think everybody should be listening to in terms of how size profiling works and the power behind that. We really want to take this time to, you know, to give you guys an opportunity to reach out to us, contact us, and open up the dialogue. You know, Island Pacific is in the business of, you know, servicing and selling software, but we're also in the business of strategy and kind of consulting with, you know, our retailers, whether they're customers or prospects, and working with consultants to kind of understand the marketplace and offer suggestions on different strategies that people can employ for their various, you know, issues. And so, you know, if you've got questions or concerns, or you want to, you know, spitball and talk about things that could be done, whether that's, you know, with our systems or potentially, you know, prior to you engaging, you know, and looking at new systems, we're more than happy. We've got industry experts and very seasoned people that have been working in various parts of the industry for years. And you know, we're only an email, phone call away to have that conversation, that dialogue. It's something that as an executive team, we've kind of prided ourselves in here at Island Pacific to make sure that we can give some time to have these discussions and dialogues with our fellow retailers, and we really would enjoy those conversations. So please, you know, reach out if you've actually submitted some questions and they haven't been responded to. We'll definitely make sure that we get questions responded to directly, and we'll make this presentation available for everyone. And we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar on size profiling. So with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. I know it's not easy these days, but we appreciate it. And if there's anything we can do, please contact any one of us here at Island Pacific, and we'd be happy to open up a dialogue, have a conversation. All right, thank you.